Welcome to Make Your Statement, the podcast that highlights the change makers, bold leaders and innovators who are making a difference in their industries. Joining us today is Richard Dickson, the co-founder and CEO of Play It Green. Play It Green are a Certified B Corp who help businesses embed sustainability in their business strategy. With over 200 businesses in 9 different countries already working with Play It Green, Richard and his team are proving that sustainability isn't just about reducing impact, it's about creating business opportunities and stronger brands. So welcome to Make Your Statement, Richard. You've got such an interesting journey from working in global sustainability partnerships to founding Play It Green, which is now a Certified B Corp. So before we get into the business side of things, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background?
Yes, certainly. So I grew up in North Manchester. I studied psychology and philosophy at university, which gave me an understanding of why people do what they do. At philosophy, I became a conscious capitalist, having looked at sort of all the systems around the world, and I thought that we can do better with business and the way the world's run. I spent 20 years in retail doing training, development, building teams, creating culture change, and then cut my startup teeth with a best friend from school. We set a leaflet distribution business up in Manchester, distributing to all the flats in the city centre, which was really good fun, kept me fit, taught me how to grow a business, and then spent 7 years working for a not-for-profit, helping communities in Tanzania with agroforestry and planting trees and creating education and infrastructure for them to set their own agroforestry businesses up. And all of that led into what I do now with Play It Green.
Okay, do you want to tell us a little bit about Play It Green?
Yep, certainly. Play It Green is a business set up on a conscious capitalist model, so we're completely transparent. We give away a percentage of turnover to charity, 10% of turnover each month. And we were set up to help people and businesses engage and educate themselves in sustainability, take a gentle but impactful journey of footprint reduction, and whilst they're on that journey have a more immediate impact through nature repair, and we plant trees, mangroves and sea kelp in Senegal, Kenya and off the coast of Canada, and create a social impact by creating employment at those projects. And then, as I've said, 10% of all our turnover goes to charity, and our members choose where their charity payments go to.
What would you say the biggest misconception businesses have about sustainability would be, Richard?
Honestly, there's so many. Businesses think it's going to be really difficult, it's going to be really expensive, they're going to have to do everything differently. So many misconceptions that are all being proven wrong by the research and even the case studies that we have as a business at Play It Green. Sustainability saves you money. It improves your processes and your systems. Obviously, if you're switching to green energy and cutting waste and cutting energy usage, that's going to cut costs. But it's also attracting better staff. It's appealing to consumers. And in those ways, it has a huge knock-on effect on your business to strengthen brand and sales.
Sure.
And then there's the legislative side as well. That's coming and it's going to get stronger and stronger. At the moment, the legislation's aimed at larger businesses with higher turnover and higher levels of staff, but it is going to come to SMEs within the next 5 to 10 years. And that will include carbon accounting. So you have to put your carbon footprint in your business accounts. You must have a footprint reduction plan in place. If businesses engage in that now, they're getting ahead of that legislation. And obviously, as I've said, appealing to a massively growing group of Gen Zs and young millennials that are looking actively at businesses with strong ESG, environmental, social and governance strategies.
Excellent, good. So you've worked with over 200 businesses now, Richard. What would you say some of the biggest challenges they face are?
The biggest challenge is the first step, because once you take that first step, it's like anything else in life. You just put the next step and then the next step, but it's always that. And I can say that from personal experience. I love mixed martial arts. I've watched MMA since I was a kid. I've trained in judo, I trained in kung fu. I knew MMA was a bit harder and a bit tougher to train in. It took me 10 years to walk into a gym. Changed my life, but it took me 10 years to do it. And it's the same with anything. If you're running a business and things are all right, why would you change? And it is that first step. But we've seen with all our customers, once they take that step, it's a journey that they enjoy, they understand, becomes meaningful. And as business owners, when you engage in sustainability and social impact and nature repair, you go home thinking, well, I've not just made money, I've done good as well. And that's just an added bonus to having a happier life, I think.
Good, sure. And for businesses that are looking to attract investment, how important is sustainability in terms of today's funding landscape? So
it's becoming hugely important. The research shows, I think the top 200 performing businesses globally all have incredibly strong ESG strategies. And the data shows that businesses with strong ESG are more resilient when the economies dive, which is kind of like what's happening at the moment, and is probably going to continue to happen for the next 5 to 10 years. So investors are actively looking for companies that have those strong strategies, and we've got 7 customers that have received investment over the last sort of 24 months. And it's gone from about 15 to 30% of when they fill out the sort of whole application and the whole process, that sustainability and governance piece is becoming more and more, up to about 30%. The same, I think, in the tender process as well, particularly with local government. It's getting more and more.
And Richard, what sort of trends would you say that you are seeing at the moment in terms of sustainability that businesses might need to be making themselves aware of?
There are some interesting stats coming out of the research. Deloitte and Price Waterhouse and a few others have done research into employee values. And one of the ones that stood out for me the most was 62% of people that have been offered jobs have turned down jobs with companies with poor ESG.
Wow.
So you're losing a huge number of potential employees by not embracing something that is just good for business anyway. It just is becoming more and more of a sensible business choice now.
Sure. Well, I guess as well that it's becoming more of a necessity rather than a nice to have, isn't it? Especially with the comments that you've just made there about applications for funding. And I guess that will have a knock-on effect on applications for vacancies and so on as well.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if you're a job seeker looking for a role and you're looking at all the different companies and one doesn't do anything around sustainability or social value and one does, the majority of kids today will apply for the one that is engaging in that positive behaviour. Access to the internet and having everything so open these days means businesses have to do everything they can to sort of stay ahead and stand out and differentiate themselves.
Okay. And have you seen businesses receive funding directly as a result of their efforts on sustainability?
Yeah, in construction, we've worked with a couple of construction companies where they've had to have that footprint report in place. They've had to have a reduction plan in place, even to get into the tender process. And then, that's the baseline of what you've got to do. But then obviously if you work with us, you're educating your staff, you've got other ways to embrace sustainability and nature repair as a business. It makes you stand out in that process.
Sure.
And it's gone beyond box ticking nowadays because everyone's going to have to box tick soon. So it's the companies that are changing culture and doing things the right way and transparently that are winning.
Yeah. And you've said that often the sort of the hardest thing for a business to do will be to make that first step. So what would be one small step that every business out there could do that would have an impact?
Well, they could subscribe to Play Green's Climate Positive Workforce. That's a simple, easy, cheap step. But other than that, the biggest things for businesses is where your money is. So pensions and banking. Bank with a sustainable bank that doesn't fund fossil fuels. Get a pension that is invested in sustainable things, again, not fossil fuels, weapons or whatever that isn't needed and isn't necessary and is damaging the planet. And then green energy and education. all those things will start to create that culture change and help your business. And measurement's critical as well. Every business is going to need to do a footprint report.
Sure.
Helps you understand how to reduce your impacts once you've got that measurement.
Excellent, thank you, Richard. So sustainability isn't just about taking action, it's about how businesses tell their story, not only to their audience, but also to their key stakeholders, to their staff, in a meaningful way. Why is storytelling so important when it comes to sustainability?
So, interestingly, storytelling is important to us as a species. From an evolutionary basis, before we had written word, we communicated and passed knowledge down through stories. I'll never forget when we were doing psychology in the first year at uni, professors said, imagine you're sat at a fireside, at a campfire, and the hunters have just come back. We're talking 200,000 years ago, and they've brought back the mammoth from the hunt that's going to feed the tribe for the next month, and they tell the story of the kill. Human beings are the only species that can experience those emotions from the story, even though they weren't there. And throughout history, that's how we've communicated and passed knowledge. But then with the invention of psychology, stories took like an evolution, because stories were able to be used to actually change behaviours and make people do things. And there's a really good, I think it was Freud's nephew, in the 1920s in Washington, on the Easter Day parade, the tobacco industry employed him to create a campaign to sell more cigarettes. And what he did was hired a load of models, female models, and got them to smoke in public, because in those days, obviously it wasn't equality like we have today. It was looked down upon if women smoked in public. It was for men to do, not women. And then the next day they paid a journalist to write a story talking about freedom sticks. And cigarettes were freedom sticks, and these women were expressing their freedom. And cigarette sales in women in America went up 400% overnight.
Wow.
So that was a story they created. And so stories became separated from truth, and therefore that's marketing. Sorry, Lewis, but marketing can be used for a negative.
Yeah.
But just going back to, so you can see the importance of stories. But as a business that embraces sustainability, you want to communicate that story for a number of reasons. Obviously, so that you create the culture change that's needed, because you engage your stakeholders and your employees in that story. They have an understanding, they feel part of that journey. It becomes that tribal, we're doing it together. But also, and obviously you're then engaging your consumers, and you're creating this story around the business of positive action. So our products aren't just going to help you, or our services aren't just going to help you. By engaging with us, you're going to help the planet. You're going to, and support a business that's actively trying to do better. But then you will also send ripples of change out in your community, your competitors, and your supply chain. Those stories of what you're doing, they'll see it and think, oh, we're going to get left behind. We need to do it as well. And so by actively talking about it in a non-greenwashy, accurate, honest and transparent way, those stories become really critical to creating change.
Good. And what would you say some of the biggest mistakes companies make would be when they're trying to communicate their green initiatives?
So, because sustainability is such a new industry and it's not really taught in schools, it's an emergent thing. So people quite often confuse terms. So carbon neutral is different from net zero. By planting trees, you're not being a sustainable business. But these are things that companies will do. They'll plant trees with products and say that we're being more sustainable. Well, you're not. You're helping repair the planet with each product sale. You've got to be accurate. So those are mistakes that businesses make. That's one of the things we do help with our partners, is how they frame things and how they talk about things, and helping them understand the language that they're actually using.
Good. And how does Play It Green help businesses showcase their sustainability efforts?
So we do it in a number of ways. We have the badges and branding that mean, if you've got a climate positive workforce, it means that you're educating your staff weekly, you're helping them rebalance their footprint, you're working as a business on sustainability. But then we help in other ways through signposting, through providing templates and policies that they can then put on their websites and commit to in the public domain. And obviously, as soon as they do that, has a double benefit. From our point of view, it makes them committed.
Yeah.
But from their point of view, it's showing the world that they are committed, and therefore it's going to bring in more sales and better staff and have those positives for the business. And then we also have things like a counter, an impact meter that businesses can put on their website that shows how many trees they've planted with us, the amount of CO2 that's offset, if they've done a carbon footprint report and rebalanced their baseline footprint whilst they're on the journey to net zero, it will show that as well. So it's a really nice way, and because of all that work is blockchain protected, if it says it on the meter, it is actual fact that we can back up and prove.
Good. Okay. So you haven't worked with FASTSIGNS Manchester before, Richard. How do you think that we might be able to help not only your customers but any other business out there who've got an eye on sustainability to communicate their message?
I introduce them to Play It Green. Always a good way. I mean, one of the brilliant things about our workforce subscription is it's helping everyone within a business to understand sustainability, that then enables them to communicate it and change as a business. And the biggest way you can help is to actively take a journey as a business and talk about it, because then your supply chain, your customers, your competitors will see it and they'll take note.
Excellent. Good. And if a company wants to build a strong, sustainable green brand, what is the first thing that they should do?
Are we talking as a startup or as an existing business?
Well, let's cover both bases.
So existing business, it's about, the first thing is measurement and reduction, because you can't actively reduce your impact on the planet if you don't know where it is and where it comes from.
Sure.
So engaging with a reputable business that can do the footprint report up to scope 3 for you, and then do the analysis to provide you with an achievable reduction plan. Always the first step. We would then say tie nature repair into your sales. Every business can do that from day one, and it's not being more sustainable, but it is actually increasing your positive impact as a business, because repairing nature in developing world countries doesn't just repair the ecosystems, it will create economies for those communities as well and lift them out of poverty.
Can you just elaborate a little further on what you mean by tie nature repair into your sales, Richard?
So, for example, for each product we sell, we'll plant one tree, or for every £10,000 in sales, we'll give 1% back to pay for nature-based solutions. And that way, as your business grows and your sales grow, that positive impact grows with you.
Sure.
And it's always, go back to stories, that those are incredible stories, because you can say, look, we've just closed this amazing deal with this huge customer, and not only is it having this positive effect on the business, it's going to create 1,000 hours of employment, it's going to plant 100,000 trees, and those stories, then all of a sudden your business is seen in a completely different light, a much more positive light.
It resonates with a lot more people.
Correct.
Excellent. Brilliant. Okay, so you talk about the reduce, repair, re-give approach. What does that look like in action, Richard?
So reduce, repair, re-give is our 3-step solution to climate change. The reason we create a 3-step solution is because it sounds simple, and people don't want things that sound difficult because they don't do it then. Reduce, repair, re-give in reality means reducing your footprint through the tips we provide, through education, through signposting, whether as an individual with our Friday tips on home sustainability, or as a business with our Wednesday tips on business sustainability. We signpost to both business services, products, and personal services and products to help you with sustainability. That's the reduce step. Repair step is repairing the planet through our nature-based solutions, whether it's the fruit trees in Senegal, coastal mangroves in Kenya, or sea kelp off the coast of Canada. And those all repair the planet in various ways, and that's a holistic way to repair the planet, rather than just planting some single type of tree that's not going to have that necessary impact. And then re-give, that's the conscious capitalist in me. Our business, Play It Green, re-gives 10% of our turnover to charity. It means that anyone that works with us and provides us with revenues having a social impact with a charity that's of their choice, so something that would hopefully be close to their heart.
Excellent. Good. So what impact has sustainability had on things like hiring, brand perception and consumer loyalty?
So the research has shown, particularly in the last 2 to 3 years, that as the Gen Z and young millennials become the biggest spending and employee group, that those values of openness and transparency and leaving a positive impact, which that generation or those generations possess, is becoming more and more important in how your brand is perceived, how your recruitment process works. Employees said 62% of employees have turned down job offers for companies that don't have an ESG strategy or have a poor ESG strategy. Consumers, 70 to 75% of consumers are willing to pay more for a product that is perceived as being more sustainable. Mm-hmm. And that's not going away. These are values that those generations have, and as that generation becomes more and more powerful in terms of spending and wages, it's only going to become more important to businesses to engage.
Good. So you've helped businesses directly reduce their carbon footprints, create a more sustainable culture. Do you have any sort of key stats around this or any success stories?
There's a few success stories. We work with a company called Iconic Technology, who started with the workforce subscription and have now transformed almost the business into a really sustainable model. They've done their footprint report, they've offset their baseline, they have a reduction plan that they're ahead of schedule on, which is really good. But also they've looked at what they sell, and they have a product of a range of reconditioned laptops, and what they've done is started to market those. We've measured the footprint for the reconditioning and the distribution, and they plant enough trees to rebalance that, so those laptops in effect have no carbon footprint for the business that purchases them. Sales have skyrocketed, and obviously the businesses that are purchasing them see a huge added benefit that they can buy all of these laptops and it doesn't go on their carbon footprint. So it's a new way to do business, a better way to do it, and a huge win for one of our customers.
Excellent. Good. So what tools and resources are you able to provide to businesses who are looking to measure and report on sustainability, Richard?
So our platform has very basic tools like a net zero framework and a guide on how to fill that out. And that will give the business a feeling for what they need to work on and where their impact is coming from. We have policies and templates that they can download and use. But we also partner with companies to do expert work. So we work with a company called Catalyst Commercial Services, and they specialise in energy procurement, footprint management and footprint measurement. And they work with some really big global corporates on the work, but they now also work with SMEs as well.
Good. Richard, this has been a great discussion. Thank you for joining us. Before we wrap it up, what is next for Play It Green? You already work with over 200 companies. Are there any exciting initiatives or platforms that people are able to get involved in?
So we are looking to improve our platform to produce more impact data around things like hours of employment created, food scarcity reduction, and all the real social impacts, so that our partners can share that as well as the sort of nature repair and carbon impact that they have. We're looking to scale in the hospitality industry. It's an industry that's very close to my heart, and we are starting to see inroads into that. So I'd watch this space for that. We're about to hit 1 million trees, mangroves and sea kelp planted. And the next goal over the next 5 years is to be doing that every month.
Wow.
That's the goal. We have to aim for that. And hopefully the partnerships we have, which are growing, and the partnerships to come will help us scale to that amazing figure.
Brilliant. Richard, if any of our viewers want to get in touch with you and learn more about what they can do to become more sustainable or to reduce their carbon footprint, where can people find you?
So they can find me on LinkedIn, Richard Dickson, or they can drop me an email, richard@playitgreen.com, or drop a social message at playitgreen on any of the major platforms.
Excellent. Right, well that's it then, Richard. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. It's been very enlightening. We've learnt a lot, and I hope our viewers enjoy the episode.
Thanks for having me. It's been really good fun.
Absolute pleasure.
Thank you.
If you've enjoyed today's episode, make sure you like, subscribe and follow the Make Your Statement podcast on your usual podcast platform. And keep an eye out for the next episode, which will be coming soon.